The Fouke Monster was a foul-smelling, mean-tempered beast that roamed the forests around Miller County during the late 60s and early 70s. A creature which bears a startling similarity to another hairy bipedal creature known as Bigfoot.
It was an early morning hunt, and I was walking down the road. I just parked my car, and I hardly hadn't been out of the car, gosh, 20 minutes. You could see 200 yards in front of you, and I noticed something on the side of a bluff, and I stopped, and I'm sitting there looking at it, and it's probably about this wide, and it's about this tall. And I'm thinking to myself, I said, man, there's no bear around here, not in this area. I've been here every day, and all of a sudden it's gone. Well, I walk up there and I'm looking at it, and this ravine is probably about 30 foot. Huge culvert you could walk through right there in that area, because this is where Days Creek runs through the woods. So I walk into the woods, get about 30 feet inside the wood line. I find a deer in a tree. And it was pretty amazing. I reached up and I pulled the deer out of the tree, and it's like it just died. I look and roll it over. I can't see any marks on it. It's still soft, like it just died. I said, well, maybe I scared a deer and it jumped in the fork of this tree and had a heart attack. I just walk off and leave.
It's not every day you come across the answer to one of the world's last great mysteries. But for some, deep in the swamps of southern Arkansas, the traces of a legend have been found.
Me and my wife had came down here and just driving around, looking, checking things out, seeing what was growing, seeing what was dying. We come down here, turn around, started to leave. Along the way, we'd smelled something like a dead cow or something. It was just rank. It was bad enough that we had to roll the windows up. On the way out, I'm curious by nature. I decided to get out and investigate. Now the smell's gone. So within the span of 20 minutes, a dead cow got up and walked off. What else can you say?
Oh yeah, well we had an incident one time when I had my wife and my daughter with me and a few friends, and we had gone into an area one evening. It was probably about 11 o'clock. I'd been there that day before shooting a gun with my daughter, actually right here. And we shot here and then moved up to that area. And I told her that, can you smell that? And she said yes. I said, well, it kind of smells like a herd of donkeys or goats that's been rolling in goat weed. And it was just kind of like in one area. You could only smell it right there in this area as you drove by. Well, we left and came back that evening, went back into that area, and we was all sitting there just talking, had our lights out, throwing rocks into the river. And all of a sudden we had this just a smell. It's an ungodly smell that come up the bluff out of the ditch. And it smelled so bad, you just can't compare it to anything that like a dead animal. It was just more than that. It was dead fish, trash, a dead animal. It would almost make you want to throw up. So at that time, it kind of startled some of the people that was with us, and they asked us to get back in the truck. But as we was leaving, I noticed my daughter threw that last rock in, and it sounded like, because the water was so shallow, we could actually just walk across it. And that last time she threw the rock in, it sounded like somebody jumped in flat-footed into the water, right there by that area where we were at. You just don't think about something like that happening. You hear about it, but you just kind of write that stuff off till it happens to you.
Me and my boy came down here, and we were hog hunting late in the afternoon. And my son, he was about 12 years old at the time, he called me. He said, "Dad, what kind of track is this?" And I walked over, and I'm like, "Well, boy, that's not a hog track, I can tell you right now." Mm-hmm. It was a big 5-toed footprint, much wider than what I would make with my size 13, much longer too. And at that point, I could tell that whatever made the track had just walked right through out of the swamp.
How many tracks were there?
There was at least 20 of them.
20,
yeah. That one you could see still in the water, and it had left a film in the water, so you could tell it had just walked through.
Obviously, I mean, to make a casting, you needed to return to the area later. So how many days later, or how much time elapsed?
We left that afternoon. Right after that, we had found 1 or 2 tracks that was still really good. One of them had a hog print kind of right in the middle of it. So we went ahead and prepared the plaster and poured it into that track.
What was the length of that track?
It was approximately 18 inches long and I'd say 8.5 inches wide.
Yeah, it was very wide. And you know, a lot of people say that the Fouke monster has 3 toes. And I mean, this goes back to what the movie portrayed. And why would the creature, does it seem more natural that it has 5 toes?
There may be some older individuals with 5 toes that maybe they were born like that from inbreeding or something, or had an accident. But all the tracks we've seen since, and we've seen quite a few in the berry patches through the years, and they all had 5 toes.
For some, the pursuit of evidence of the existence of the creature is little more than a hobby, a way to pass the time they would normally spend hunting or fishing. But there are those who have encountered the Boggy Creek Monster for themselves, and that brush with the unknown leads them down a path that consumes much of their lives.
In telling somebody about your experience that doubted you, what would you say to them to convince them that this is truly a possibility?
Well, the first thing I would say is if we think we know everything, we're wrong. The second thing I would do, I'd bring them down here to Sulphur River bottoms, and I would let them walk into the woods 40 feet and then see, or let me walk into the woods 40 feet and then let them see that they cannot see me from then on. Let them see the shadows, see how dark it is. It's dark in here at 12 o'clock noon with all the shadows in the trees and the canopy and things like that. I found no less than 200 footprints here. I've probably got maybe 7 of them cast, and take them, I would show them the footprints and say, you know, what makes footprints like this that are 16.5 inches long by 8 inches wide? I was lucky enough last year to find a print where he was actually on all 4, so I've got a fist and a foot together as he runs through, leaving a lake. And so I would show them that right there.